In this video, I want to give you my top 5 editions of the King James Version. A lot of people who watch my channel tell me that I must hate the King James Version because I seem to be criticizing it all the time. That is simply not true. I have told people repeatedly, and I'll just have to say it again, I love the King James Version. I'm glad to have multiple good editions of it. I use it all the time. One edition I use of it pretty much every day for the last many months is the Dwell app edition of the King James Version. I've been listening through it. But when I need to reach for physical editions, which ones do I reach for? I'm going to give you my top 5. I'm going to save the best 2 for the end. And then I'm going to give you some honorable mentions and some dishonorable mentions. You'll see. I believe every one of these was sent to me by others. The honorable mentions I got from friends, but the top 5 are things that were given to me by publishers. I need to put that out there up front, but I'm only showing you editions that I wanted to have. I asked for all these, and I was not required to give some sort of positive assessment of any of them. So let me start with this one. This is the Thomas Nelson KJV personal size large print reference Bible. It really is just beautiful. The font is well done. I'm going to give you a shot of it here. I'll just open up the box here. I have the red goatskin edition, and it really is a beauty. Goatskin leather. You can see that maybe. Oh, you can't see it. I don't have the best overhead camera setup. I'm sorry about that. This is a little bit jury-rigged. I actually don't like so much the layout of this. I love single column. I'm kind of stuck on only single column, as you'll see in this video, but I don't like verse by verse editions. A lot of preachers do, however, and if you happen to preach from the King James Version or need to, and sometimes I need to, this is a handy way to make sure that you don't lose your place. The paragraphing is also still clear because there is a nice blank line between paragraphs and a nice heading above, I believe, every paragraph. The Bible lays flat as it's supposed to. I'm a little unhappy too with the poetic lines. I know Klaus Erik Krogh, who designed this typeface and who had involvement in laying out this Bible for Thomas Nelson. He, I don't think, would have wanted to do it this way. I think he has to do what publishers ask him to do sometimes. But they know their audience. I think this is mainly for preachers, others I presume, who like to have a verse-by-verse setting. I don't find it helpful for reading, but for that purpose and for using as a prop in videos, because this red color is very noticeable, and if you haven't noticed for the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 videos I've been using this, this is going to be my King James Version for videos going forward. If you see the red, you'll know that it is the King James Version. I use red as a brand color for KJVParallelBible.org, for KJBStudyProject.com, and for TextualConfidence.com, so I thought it was sort of suitable. All right, that's the top one. I won't spend as long on every one, but the top 5 I'll spend some more time on. Let me now turn to the next edition that is not top, but really, really interesting. The next Bible I want to talk about is a big one. It's actually a 1611 reprint that was done by somebody I met at the Museum of the Bible a couple weeks ago, the Society of Bible Craftsmanship conference. When I first ran into him and found out that he was running the KJV store, I thought, uh-oh, are you here to see me? Are we going to have some kind of fight in the back of the room? But no, he was very courteous and was eager to send this to me. I was very eager to have it because, as you'll see in a moment, it is a reprint of the 1611. I have another reprint that I actually bought in the campus bookstore of a King James only Baptist college, but I couldn't believe it. It was in plastic, and when I got it out, it wasn't in this Gothic type that you see here. It was actually set in Roman type, and I thought that defeated the whole purpose. I show images all the time of the original 1611 on my channel. I go to the Falvey Memorial Library. I'll try to put the link in the show notes here. And they have some very high-res scans. I will continue to use that, but I'll also be able to use this, and I'm excited about that. All of the marginal notes out here that are original, all of course, the Gothic type, the beautiful drop caps. I think that it's really helpful to have this for video purposes, and you may want to have a 1611 reprint yourself. It's just fun to have on hand, fun to show people, and actually kind of useful if you're going to talk to a King James onlyist who insists that he believes in the 1611. I've heard stories of pastors pulling this off their shelf and showing it to other King James only pastors or King James onlyists who insist that they use the 1611, and they say, well, I can't read that. They don't realize they're not actually using the 1611. Hardly anybody is. Now let me show you another edition of the King James Version. Actually, though, this Cambridge Clarion I happen to have in the NASB, not in the King James. This was sent to me by Cambridge for the Bible Study Magazine cover story I did about a year ago or more, that showed off some of the best Bible editions out there. I absolutely love the Cambridge Clarion, and I would be happy to be carrying this around all the time. This is the only Bible I could have. Let me show you what this looks like, because the King James edition looks the same as the NASB edition. It's just so beautiful. The poetic lines are laid out here. The verse numbers are in the margin for much of the Bible. When there's poetic lines, you'll see that, but they are inside the text when it's regular single column paragraphed prose. This is, to me, the pretty ideal blend of size and layout. I don't care to have the side column references. I think they're tastefully done, and many people still do use those. I like to have my Bible text clean, and we'll see another edition in a minute that's like that, because I can get all this stuff in Logos Bible software. I don't really need it to be in my physical Bible, but you might. And Cambridge, what they do is elegant. It's classy. I just love it. And this calfskin leather is also very beneficial for me. The type is, I think it is Lexicon, the same font that's used in nice ESV Bibles. And if I were talking about ESV Bibles, I could go on and on about some of their nice editions. They have a similar layout in their heirloom legacies. This is a really good choice. Okay, let me now actually turn to... Just dropped a Bible. I got some big Bibles around here on my desk. Let me turn now to Mark Ward, coming to you live from my new office on the 7th floor of the main building, Building 3, up in Bellingham, Washington, of Logos Bible Software. The third King James Version I want to talk about is the new Cambridge Paragraph Bible. This was done a number of years ago by a scholar by the name of David Norton, with whom I have had very brief correspondence. I want to say 2005. Yep, Cambridge University Press, 2005. The typography is stupendous. The hardback that I have here is valuable, but I'd actually get one of the leather-bound ones, the nicest one you can get, if you're going to use it on a regular basis. The notes are fantastic. Everything about this is well done. I've talked about this elsewhere on the channel in another video, so I won't go into great detail. But the reason I recommend this one is not mainly actually because of the typography, although that's an excellent feature. It's that David Norton actually did textual criticism, as it were, on the King James Version. That is, he went back to the notes taken by the King James translators. Insofar as we have access to them, there are some missing, but there's a lot that we do have. And he looked at early editions, and he determined that there were a number of printer errors. And he brought this edition back in line with the 1611. And along with the typography, which is not in Gothic type, but in beautiful, excellent Roman type, this should be one of the easiest to read King James versions that there are. When I say easy to read, I don't mean that the English itself is easy to read. Of course, I'm talking about the typographic formatting. If you're counting, that was number 4 in my list of top 5 recommended King James Bible editions. If you need a printed edition of the King James Version, and I think pretty well every English speaker who has the money should have at least one, then these are some of my top ones. I will get to the very last one at the very end of the video, but now I want to turn to some honorable mentions, 2 honorable mentions, and 1 dishonorable mention. The first is actually the TBS Westminster, the Westminster Reference Edition, I think they call it. Let me turn to the camera here. This was actually sent to me. This is a Skyler. Skyler is good. Everything they do is top quality. You can see their logo right there. The Skyler was sent to me by Randy Brown a couple years ago when I first wanted to have actually a prop King James for my videos. I wanted something that was high quality, and he sent me this. The strength of the Westminster is not in the layout, although it's, you know, it's okay. It's classy enough. I don't like double column layouts. I like single column layouts, and I don't like having pilcrow symbols, these little paragraph symbols in the text. I think that defeats the purpose. I think you want to see the text chunked for you so that you can at a glance see where the page is going. I think that is a big weakness for any Bible that you're going to pick up and read, and what else would you be doing with it? I suppose if you're using it for study purposes, however, that's good. And the thing I like about the TBS Westminster Reference Bible is that it does make some sincere effort to explain words in the King James that are archaic and obsolete. So if I turn to Zechariah chapter 1, you can see if I go to verse 21, it says, "No man did lift up his head, but these are come to fray them." This is one of my false friends. They clarify that this means frighten. Now, I checked 2 Timothy 2:15, and they don't mention study as a false friend, study to show thyself approved. I checked 1 Kings 18:21, and they also don't mention how long halt ye between two opinions, so it's a little bit hit or miss in my experience with my false friends, but it makes a better effort than most other editions of the King James that I've run into. And now, another honorable mention. You're going to like this. Check this out. This was just sent to me by, oops. Oh, I dropped something essential. I'll be right back. I dropped this. This is needed because this Bible is absolutely tiny. The print is, it's double column, which you know I don't like so much, and every verse is its own paragraph, which I don't like so much. Well, I should be showing this to you. Check this out. Isn't this crazy? Oh my goodness. It's a beautiful little thing. It's well executed. I don't know if this is going to help you see it or not, but here's the text. You know, if you need a tiny King James Bible, then go to Martyn Chamberlain's site that I will have listed for you. He's going to do the New King James as well. At least that's the plan. Maybe this is for you if you need to smuggle Bibles into the Soviet Union. You know, go back in time and do that. I don't know. Or you just want to have a little curio or something that you want to take on a hike and could actually read. I don't know. There is an honorable mention. Then comes our dishonorable mention. I've got to show you this edition of the King James Bible, the Defined King James Bible. Why is this dishonorable? Well, on the one hand, let me give the honor to it that it's due. This Bible does more than any other King James edition that I personally know of, and I'd actually love to hear from you in the comments if you've got alternatives, to define unfamiliar, archaic, and obsolete words. And I find it really incredibly ironic that this Defined King James Bible put out by D.A. Waite, who really is an extremist King James onlyist, I find it so ironic and sad, just so sad, that if I go to 2 Timothy 2, let's see if I can do that reasonably quickly, and I look up one of my classic false friends, 2 Timothy 2:15, sure enough, study to show thyself approved. He says, Greek, be diligent. That is a, I don't know, backhanded compliment, sort of acknowledgement, backdoor acknowledgement that study here, it does not mean hit the books, it means be diligent. He's more clear about archaisms elsewhere, even 1 Kings 18:21. Let's see, 1 and 2 Samuel, 1 and 2 Kings, 1 Kings 18:21. How long halt ye between two opinions? We're going to see in just a second that he does have a note there, 1 Kings 18:21. How long halt ye between two opinions? And sure enough, at the bottom of the page, archaic, walk with a crippled gait, limp, hobble. So I have defenders of the King James Version all the time who just flatly deny that there are any false friends in the King James Version, words that we don't know. And yet I see them in their sermons being tripped up by them. And I'm pointing to D.A. Waite, one of their own, who's not using the terminology false friends, fine, but he is showing that the very words I'm pointing to as archaic and obsolete, using senses that are no longer active in our English, he's supporting my points. The reason this is a dishonorable mention, however, is that this probably is the single ugliest Bible I have ever seen. Look at that. Just look at that. A mixture of sans serif and Gothic. That's just horrific from a typographer's standpoint. And then the interior looks like it was done in Microsoft Word. And the bolded words with all of the superscript call attention to these words. I just think that's really ugly. A 2-column, which I already kind of don't like. Every single verse is its own paragraph. There are no headings in the Bible that break up the text at all. And there aren't even any pilcrow or paragraph symbols. All you have is chapter breaks. I don't think that's helpful for reading. But if you are a King James onlyist, or if you know one and they just won't trust anybody from outside their own crowd, they won't even get a Cambridge Clarion. Well, if they want to get a King James Bible, buy a King James onlyist. You could do much worse than this, even though it's ugly, because it does translate the dead words and false friends. Okay, that is quite a list, and now I am finally getting to my top recommendation of the most beautiful and useful edition of the King James Bible that I personally know of. It's neck and neck, really, between this Bible and the Cambridge Clarion. I'll tell you in a second why I think the Clarion has some elements that are superior. I also think the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible would be an excellent choice, and if you want verse-by-verse editions of your Bibles, well, then the red one I showed you from Thomas Nelson would also be excellent. This is my top recommendation, and I'll show you in a second why. It is called the Schuyler Treveris. The Treveris. I'm awash in these Bibles now. Just look at this beautiful leather. Oh my goodness. I'm really liking this. It smells good too. Gotta love that about Bibles. That's one reason I keep them in boxes, so they retain that smell. It seems to work for a while anyway. Here is what the Treveris looks like. I probably shouldn't open right to poetry. Let's start with prose. Here's the key with the Treveris. It's single column. It's paragraphed, which I think is the best thing for careful reading of Scripture because it keeps you aware of where you're at in the argument. There are no headings. I can go back and forth on that, but this is sort of a minimalist Bible. The typeface was done by Claus Erik Krogh at 2K Denmark, unless I am very much mistaken, and I don't think that I am. And then look, the verse numbers are out in the margins. I really love that. It's true, you don't know exactly where the verse breaks are, and that could feasibly get you in a little trouble in a preaching situation, but in almost all situations you can guess. And in poetry, you don't have to. The lineup is really clear. I like the poetry. I think that the line matching that you can see, it's printed on this side of the page exactly the same height as on the previous page so that you get a little bit less ghosting. That makes for a little less flexibility when it comes to poetry. These blank lines have to be the size of one line. I kind of like it when there's a little more flexibility, but we can't do that with our current Bible paper technology. This, nonetheless, makes it very clear which lines are set in parallel with others. I think that's really helpful. I'm going to give you the one criticism of this Bible, however, that makes me say that it's neck and neck with the Clarion. It is these drop caps. Skyler sent this to me, and I'm very thankful for it, and I just made it my top Bible, okay? This is my top recommendation, and this is the one that when I carry a King James to church recently, I've been carrying this one, in part because of the leather, I must admit. But the drop caps, to me, are not elegant. They are gaudy. They're shouting at me. And if Skyler listens to this video, I would encourage them to talk to Claus Erik Krogh and find a more classy way to set off your chapters. I would actually say don't set off the chapters at all. Let the text continue to flow. I don't know why chapter breaks need to be shown the way that they are. When in Luke 23, okay, we get to the end of one pericope, why does the start of this pericope rather than this one or this one, let's say, why does it merit a drop cap? I think that's not actually helping people read the Bible better. I have to admit, I showed this to a friend, and all of the things that I did not like about it, which is very few, because it's my top recommendation, he actually liked, to each his own. I will say I've spent a good bit more time than this friend caring about such stuff. He also, I think, did not like it that when I turn to, you'll see this here, I'll put the camera back on. When you turn to the stories of Jesus, the Gospels, you're going to see the text in red when Jesus is speaking. I like that. I do not ever fall into the error that conservatives like me warn about, treating the red letters as if they're more divine than the black ones. No, I just think it's a neat and not too gaudy or screamy, too obvious typographical convention that just helps me when I'm reading on the page to see where's Jesus speaking, and that's often relevant to my reading and my teaching and my study. I can just glance down the page and find it. And I'm actually slightly red-green colorblind, so if you see a massive difference between black and red, I'm actually not seeing it. I just see it just enough to be able to use this efficiently and clearly. This Schuyler Treveris, and this particular edition, the one that has this beautiful, almost yellow leather, is the one that I recommend as my top King James Version edition. I've given you my top 5 in this video. I've given you 2 honorable mentions and 1 dishonorable one. Hopefully this is helpful to you viewers.